Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Charlotte Motor Speedway at the dirt track at Charlotte for round 10 of the Ultimate Sim League, the premier short track series on iRacing. We are here tonight at the dirt track at Charlotte for round 10, and tonight is JR Photography Night as we look down from high above the racetrack right now down as the cars are out there on practice. Just about over 6 minutes left in tonight's practice session, and Tyler Jackson, your current points leader, is up on top of the pylon right now over Brian Hacker, Bud Riedner, David Konjerski, and Brian Gundrum, rounding out your top five so far in practice. As we take a look at tonight's race information here, as we take a look at that, it is being brought to us by JR Photography. It's the Ultimate Sim League. Last week they were at the Lima Land Speedway where we saw Tyler Jackson go to victory lane. Here last week, Brian Hacker finished second and James Fletcher rounded out your top three. Coming in here tonight, we want to welcome you all out here to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and once again, my name is the boss man, Al Smith, and I'll be bringing you all tonight's action of the dirt street stocks. Here as the crowd files in, we'll take a quick moment, pay some bills. We'll be right back, and we'll go over the current point standings and get us ready for tonight's racing action, which is being brought to us by JR Photography.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Welcome back here to the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and once again, my name is Al Smith, and you are watching the Ultimate Sim League, the premier short track racing series. And tonight's race is brought to you by Ultimate Race Cars, UltimateRaceCars.com. Ski Graphics, your graphic need for iRacing paints and t-shirt designs. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Ski Graphics. And tonight's presenting sponsor, JR Photography.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days.
Sorry about that, folks, and a little technical difficulty down in the truck. But we will close in on tonight's heat races, which will be coming on up in momentarily. This is your current point standings coming in here to the JR Photography Night. Tyler Jackson up on top of the points by 30 points over Brian Hacker. David Konjerski runs in that third spot. Bud Riedner and Jeff Steenbergen rounding out your top 5 in points. Be a quick night of racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 40 laps will be tonight's main event distance. And Tyler Jackson wants to start shotgun on the field once we get going here tonight. But it should be a great night of racing. We should expect a lot of side-by-side 3-wide action. Track very wide here in the corners. As we watch them out there on practice, we'll take a look at the number 75 of James Fletcher down on pit road. Bud Reedner out on the racetrack right now. We show you the current practice time, 1 minute and 30 left here in our practice session. Coming up here tonight, we'll have 2 heat races coming at you, followed by our 40-lap main events. Tyler Jackson out on the front of this one as they are out there practicing way up, ripping the lip here tonight. You'll see them all the way down by those Uke tires. You do not want to touch those Uke tires as they'll rip the left front right off your race car. And that'll be the end of that. You definitely want to take a look at that as they work around the speedway. I want to thank everybody for tuning on in here tonight. If you have not done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that little subscribe button, get notification every time the Turn 3 Racing Network goes live here on a Monday night or any other night of the week that ends in Y. You'll get notification. We have all the way from the short tracks to the high banks of Daytona to the road courses all over the world. We cover all your racing action here on the Turn 3 Racing Network as they continue to work on their practice here. Just about 20 seconds left to go. And we will be into our first qualifying. So you saw how your speeds are shaping up here tonight. As we get ready to go with our first qualifier, you see there's multiple lines really starting the show all the way around the speedway as it is JR Photography night. We are on board the JR Photography blimp. And the drivers get ready to go to do battle. And just like that, the heat race number 1 is going to take and come to the grid. And this is what your starting lineup will look like up on the front row. It is going to be car number 33. That is Gary Pizon. Pizon, the driver in the 33, will start on tonight's pole. Starting to the outside of the front row will be car number 40. This driver hails from Waunakee, Wisconsin. It is Bud Reedner. Bud Reedner in car number 40. Starting on the inside of row number 2, the driver out of Wilton, New York, the driver of the 45 Speed Lab. The 45 Speed Lab entry, that is Justin Smith. Starting to his outside in row number 2 will be the current driver that sits second in the points out of Huntley, Illinois. It is the high-flying Brian Hacker. Starting shotgun on the field, scheduled to start in the 5th and final spot here tonight, will be car number 99. That is Brandon Hall. Brandon Hall, the driver out of Mayville, Wisconsin. 5 cars slated to go here in heat race number 1. Looks like possibly 4 out onto the racetrack right now. Gary Pizon missing the start of the grid. Had a little bit of electrical issues. We'll see if he can come out onto the racetrack here tonight as the field will get ready to go with heat race number 1. It'll be Justin Smith being relegated up to that pole position. His outside will be the 40 of Bud Reedner. Pace truck down and away on the backstretch of the field, now in the hands of the 45 and the 40. Heat race number 1 getting ready to come at you. Green flag is out. We're on the way. Smith on a loud pedal first. He'll bring Hall in that number 40 with him. The 99er Brandon Hall works the bottom of the racetrack, the middle. Here comes Brian Hacker down to the bottom. They're still door to door. Now the top 2 will run in the turn number 3. Justin Smith going to come off turn number 4, looking to pick up the heat race lap, and he will do so. Now Brandon Hull moves to the inside as they work through turns 1 and 2. 3 wide down the backstretch coming at you for your race lead. Brian Hacker down to the inside. They're going to make it 4 wide off of turn 4. Hang on to your hat. It is the 99 of Hull showing the way. Justin Smith ripping the lip up on the outside of the 45 Speed Lab entry, the Smith entry, down to the inside. Here comes Brian Hacker. He's going to dice it up in here in the turn number 3. 4 wide once again. This track mighty wide enough here as Brandon Hall still leads on to your race lead. Last time by, Gary Bizon was your fastest driver on the racetrack, as he is 6 seconds behind after relegated from being started from pit road. Justin Smith still up to the outside. Brian Hacker trying to run the bottom of the racetrack. He's got the 40 of Riedner down to the inside of him. Brandon Hull stretching out his advantage to a half a second lead over the number 11 Illinois of Brian Hacker. Here comes Justin Smith, shot out of a cannon off turn number 2. Smith to the outside, Hull down to the middle of the racetrack. Brian Hacker starting to cut into that race lead with 3 laps to go. Field working off turn number 2 down the backstretch. They will come. It'll be the 45 of Justin Smith working the outside of the racetrack. Two laps to go. This time Brian Hull has moved up to the outside of the racetrack. Brian Hacker up to the top side as well as we go on board. As he looks back out of the Ultimate Race Cars on board camera. But Riedner really down low, digging low, gaining on him as the white flag will come out as they try to chase down your race leader. Oh, Hacker in the outside fence. That's going to allow the 40 of Riedner down to the inside. Can he hold on for a second? Brian Hacker up to the outside, Smith through the middle, but here comes Brandon Hull. He'll pick up heat race number 1. Riedner is going to bounce off the 11 of Illinois of Hacker, and Hacker will cross the line in third. Smith and Pizon will round out your heat race results here for heat race number 2. Getting ready to grid up onto the racetrack. And this is your starting grid. Starting on the inside of the front row out of Kylene, Texas, in the Ski Graphics car number 15, it is David Kinjerski. Starting to his outside, the driver out of Slinger, Wisconsin, the Andes Custard, number 118, that is Brian Gundrum. The EDM Jack sponsored number 8 of Tyler Jackson will start on the inside of row number 2. The outside of him will be the Ultimate Race Car, Ski Graphics car number 62. It is Jeff Steenbergen. And shotgun on the field, the driver who led the most laps 1 week ago, the 75 of James Fletcher. So Fletcher will be the 5th and final car. 10 cars in attendance here tonight as your field will pace underneath around the field. So Kinjerski up on the front of this one, along with the number 118 of Gundrum. See Steenbergen working up there, working in that cushion. We saw the outside really working for them. Pace car going to be down and away. Kinjerski, Gundrum up on the front row. Then it's Jackson and Steenbergen. Fletcher shotgun on the field. 8 laps is your distance in heat race number 2. Our second and final qualifier of tonight's event. And Kinjerski's going to step on the loud pedal and he'll race down here in turn number 1. Kinjerski up to the outside. Tyler Jackson way down on that bottom of the racetrack as they race down in the turn number 3 for the first time. Kinjerski's going to kiss the outside wall. One car sideways, and he'll catch the 75 of Fletcher, and Fletcher hard into the inside Uke tire. We stay green. Tough break for the driver of the 75 is now a good side-by-side battle as the 15 of Kinjerski will slide it into the outside, kissing the lip up on the outside, but all the way down on the bottom. Tyler Jackson's going to lead lap number 2. Jackson works the bottom. Let's go on board. Watch the driver cam work on the number 8 of Tyler Jackson. Now he works the outside, so he worked down here on the front stretch. Jackson will go to the high side. Kinjerski back to the bottom now. He'll try to cut back underneath the 8 of Tyler Jackson. Jackson taking over your heat race lead. Kinjerski runs the middle. There's a little bit of moisture left down there, but there is slick underneath there from the practice session. Kajerski slide job in the turn number 1. It'll be a crossover off turn number 2. Jackson going to take over the race lead. Down in the turn number 3 they go. They both go to the inside now. The number 8 of Tyler Jackson up the racetrack. There's a good side-by-side battle back here for your 3rd position. Then it's Jeff Steenbergen in the Ultimate Race Car, number 62. He works the outside. He'll get the outside fence. As now the 118 of Gundrum is going to take over that 3rd position. Definitely do not want to get the outside wall crossover off turn number 4, and it'll be Steenbergen back to the inside. Gundrum's going to have to go to the outside of the racetrack. They'll be dead even off the turn number 2, but up front it is a good heat for your race lead. This time off of turn number 4, it'll be the white flag will be shown. One more circuit around. Down the backstretch they come. Tyler Jackson showing the way. He'll cut it through the corner. Side by side off. Turn number 4. Can Konjerski get the power down? He cannot. Jackson is going to pick up the heat race win. Konjerski will finish 2nd. Gundrum, Steenbergen, and Fletcher will round out your 5-car field. And just like that, it'll be done with that as we go into our warm-up period. And we'll take a quick break here. We'll be right back. You're watching the Ultimate Sim League here on the Turn 3 Racing Network.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back here to the Turn 3 Racing Network as the field starts to pull away. This is your starting lineup for tonight's main event, the JR Photography 40-lap main event. And this is your starting lineup after we look at the race information. The race grid here tonight for tonight's main event is going to see the number 62 of Jeff Steenbergen starting up on the front row. Starting that is outside the driver out of Wilton, New York. It is the 45 of Justin Smith. Brian Gundrum and Andy's Custard, number 118, will start on the inside of row number 2. To his outside, the Carbon Junction, car number 11, Illinois. That is Brian Hacker. The Kylene, Texas driver, the 15, David Konjerski, will start in the inside of row number 3. Outside of him, the 40 of Bud Riedner. Tyler Jackson will start shotgun on the field, scheduled to qualify or start 7th. Brandon Hull, Gary Pizon, and James Fletcher. Your 10-car field as we get ready to go with tonight's main event. The field down and away as they head in the turn number 3. Off of turn number 4 they will come. Green flag is up, and we are underway with our main event. Steenbergen going to jump out to your early race lead as they go 3 wide down the backstretch. 1 car, a little bumper tag. Here comes Konjerski to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide once again in the turn number 3. Brian Hacker working the middle of the racetrack. He's the meat in the sandwich between Konjerski and Smith. Bud Riedner working the outside of the racetrack as well. Now they're going to come down off of turn number 2. There'll still be 3 wide. Riedner going to go from the outside to the inside, right down to the extreme bottom. 1 car gets sideways. That's Gary Pizon. He'll go around on the back. Off of turn number 4, he got loose in the 8 of Jackson. Nowhere to go. 1 car out of shape. That's the 45 of Smith, but he'll reel it all back in. Now they work off of turn number 4. It'll be Brian Hacker down to the inside. He's trying to chase down this 62 of Steenbergen. If you would have told me that last year, the 2020 Asphalt Champion would be winless in this 21 season, I would have told you you were nuts. So far, Brian Hacker is sitting 2nd in the point stand. He's coming to tonight's main event winless. Can he break through here tonight? Up front, Steenbergen stowing away Brian Hacker in second. The number 118 of Gundrum up the racetrack as he got two distinct lines really starting to show up right now. The inside line and then the outside line. Steenbergen works the inside as we go on board with that number 62 looking back at the field. See how really wide the Charlotte Motor Speedway is. Here I'm working the throttle. They work down here to turn number 1. Off of turn number 4, Steenbergen up into the slick. That's going to allow the 11 Illinois to reel him in. Is now Brian Hacker. He's going to go to the inside. Hacker down low. He's going to try to go for your race lead off of turn number 2. Can't make it quite stick that time down the backstretch. Steenbergen back down the inside. He'll slam the door shut on the 11 of Hacker, but up the racetrack he will go. They race down here on the front stretch. Brian Hacker back down to the inside. You see the moisture starting to build back up in the middle on top of the slick. It is a little deceiving for these racers. Here on JR Photography Night. I will mention the 40 of Bud Riedner, undefeated on JR Photography Night. He won at Cedar Lake, which was sponsored by JR Photography. He won at Eldora, which was sponsored by JR Photography Night. He is pedaling, working the outside of the racetrack, but here comes Tyler Jackson. Started in the 10th position all the way up to your 5th position, trying to slide job as Bud Riedner stuck in the outside wall. As Steenbergen still shows the way. Good side-by-side battle back here between Gundrum and Konjerski. Konjerski working the bottom of the racetrack. Gundrum not giving up on that outside as he still rips the lip around this racetrack. We go on board with our point leader with the Ski Graphics onboard camera, Tyler Jackson. He's going to go right to the middle of the racetrack now. So he's trying to find a way. He'll go right to the outside. See how close he is to that wall. So they work down the back stretch. Off of turn number 4, it'll be lap 13 into the books, working lap number 14, closes in on the halfway point of this event. Three wide for you, that number 4 is by Brian. Tyler Jackson now to the middle of the racetrack. He's going to take it 3 wide, trying to get around the 118 of Gundrum. He will do so. Gundrum says, not quite yet, Jackson, as I'm going to battle back on the outside line, starting to lose a little bit of grip up there. The middle starting to come in, it looks like. As the 11 Illinois of Brian Hacker has gone to the middle of the racetrack, up a little bit higher. There goes Tyler Jackson. Great action out for your number 2 spot now, Tyler Jackson. Trying to work around the outside of the 11 Illinois of Brian Hacker. Can he do it? Jackson started 10th on tonight's feature event, runs in your 3rd spot currently, just 3 laps shy of the halfway point. Jackson working the outside of the racetrack. He'll pull alongside the 11 of Hackers. They go side by side. Those are your championship contestants right now. Jackson came into tonight's racing action with a 30-point cushion over the 11 of Hacker with just 3 races remaining in this season. Great battle though for this number 2 spot. All this happened in about 3/4 of a second behind our race leader of Jeff Steenbergen. Steenbergen has 1 win this season at the Fairbury Speedway. Tyler Jackson really works the outside of the racetrack, gets great momentum off turn number 2. He'll clear the 11 of Brian Hacker, now sets sight on the number 8 of the 62 of Steenbergen. Crossover move for your number 3 spot. Brian Hacker gets back by the 118 of Gundrum. Konjerski has moved to the outside of the racetrack. He closes back in on this battle for 3rd. Meanwhile, things really starting to tighten up for your race lead. Tyler Jackson 10th to 2nd and not done yet as we've just crossed the halfway point. Jackson gets a great run off turn number 2 and he'll close in now within 3 car lengths of that number 62 of Steenbergen. Field starting to migrate back up the racetrack as they're blowing the middle of the racetrack off down in turns 3 and 4. Back to the outside will go Jackson to Steenbergen down low. A little bit deeper in the field, the 75 of Fletcher runs 9th. 8th is Brandon Hull, who picked up the heat race win. Justin Smith runs in that 7th position. David Konjerski makes some contact right there with the 40 of Bud Riedner as we got a challenge for your race lead. Steenbergen up the racetrack. Tyler Jackson with a slip up, and here comes Brian Gundrum. Gundrum down low. Can he make a move on the 8 of Tyler Jackson? Jackson works the outside of the racetrack. He'll hit the moisture and hold on to that number 2 position with 16 laps to go. Tyler Jackson now back looking forward on the ski graphics on board. He'll work to the bottom of the racetrack as they come off turn number 4. Steenbergen still showing away. Tyler Jackson trying to figure out a way to get around the 62 as the dust here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway starting to build up as these cars are working around the racetrack. Tyler Jackson down at the way bottom of the racetrack, this time off turn number 2. Can he get the power down? He'll just keep the left front down on the inside of the 62 of Steenbergen. Steenbergen in the moisture gets a little bit better of a run this time off turn number 4. He'll hold on to your race with 13 laps to go. Jackson works the outside of the racetrack. Brian Gundrum starting to close in on this, making a 3-car battle. And here comes Brian Hacker. Hacker went back, relaxed his muscles, now starting to flex them a little bit as he closes on this 3-car battle for your race lead. Steenbergen works the middle of the racetrack with the 8 of Tyler Jackson way up high. And Gundrum trying to figure out which lane is going to be the faster lane so he can get by both of them. Bud Riedner runs in 5th. Konjerski getting challenged now by the number 45 of Smith for that 6th position. We keep our eyes peeled on this battle for your race lead. That settles out now, a side-by-side battle back here. We take a look at it. Justin Smith works the outside of the racetrack. Win that Speed Lab number 45. They work down here in the turn number 1. Everybody working the high side of the racetrack. Steenbergen runs the middle low side in 3 and 4. The Tyler Jackson's going to go a little bit lower there. He's going to draw even with your race leader. In the turn number 1 they go. This 8, Tyler Jackson way down low. Steenbergen in the middle of the turn up the racetrack. Still dead heat for your race lead. Steenbergen working the cushion of the racetrack as Brian Hacker now has moved back to your 3rd position as they battle through turns 1 and 2. You can see the different lines. Steenbergen working the outside of the racetrack with just 8 laps to go. It'll be the 8 of Jackson working the bottom of the racetrack. Bud Riedner now moves up to your 4th position, the 62 of Steenbergen. Works the middle of the racetrack. Now here comes Tyler Jackson. Jackson on the outside with an 11 of Brian Hacker closing in on this battle. Brian Hacker trying to claw his way back into this battle for your race win with just 6 laps to go. Steenbergen runs the middle of the racetrack. Tyler Jackson up high. Off of turn number 2, Jackson with the momentum, but he cannot do anything with that ultimate race car of Steenbergen. Off of turn number 4, the high five sign from the flag man Barney will show 5 laps to go as Fletcher down on the inside of the racetrack. Issues for the 75 of Fletcher as he works to the bottom of the racetrack. Jackson on the loud pedal now, trying to figure out a way to get around the number 8. Get the 8 around the 62 of Steenbergen. Steenbergen down to the low side. Tyler Jackson up high. He has a run on him off of turn number 2. Can't quite get the power down, but it'll be Steenbergen still showing the way. Tyler Jackson back to the outside as they work off turn number 4. Steenbergen really showing some muscle here tonight. Has led it since the green flag has dropped. Now the 8 of Tyler Jackson will cut down low. Back to the outside of the turn number 3. Off of turn number 4, the parallel flags are up. 2 laps to go as we got a battle for second. That's for the third spot. Mean slide job. Bud Reedner will clean the front end off the 11 of Brian Hacker. Meanwhile, here comes Tyler Jackson. Jackson with a slide job of himself up the racetrack. The 82 cuts it back down low off of turn number 4. White flag is out. Final trip around the speedway. Steenbergen down low. The Tyler Jackson automobile going to cut it up low off turn number 2. Down the backstretch, they drag race. Into turn number 3. Slide job by the 8 of Tyler Jackson. He'll slide up. Here comes Steenbergen. It's going to be a drag race off turn number 4. But it's going to be Jackson at the line. Steenbergen will finish second. Reedner, Hacker, and Justin Smith will round out your top 5. Guntram will cross the line in 6th. 7th will go to Konjerski, Hull, and Pizon. Rounding out your 9 cars left out on the racetrack. Fletcher ends up in the pits. Unfortunately, not the night that driver was looking for. But what an amazing end here tonight as your top 3 drivers will come down here onto the front stretch. As it is Tyler Jackson picking up tonight's feature event win. We'll be right back here with our post-race show with the Ultimate Sim League. But until then, we'll be right back. You're watching the Ultimate Sim League here on the Turn 3 Racing Network.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And welcome back here to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where we just witnessed a great race here with a last lap pass for the win. And for the 7th time this season, he will go to victory lane. It's the driver out of Rockford, Illinois. It's the driver, the Jax EDM. Number 8, Tyler Jackson. And Tyler, how'd you get that one done? You and Jeff were putting on a dogfight out there for those last 10 laps.
Yeah, that was an awesome race. I was kind of waiting for the track to slick off, and Jeff was still running the middle, and he was still making ground, and I tried it a couple times, and I really couldn't figure it out, so I had to start going up to the top in 1 and 2, and then at the end, I still wasn't gaining on him, so then I really started doing some weird stuff. I started diming the corner off and just trying to figure something else out to get by him, and man, that was a great race. I don't think we ever touched.
Yeah, the officials here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway decided not to go out and groom the track here after our qualifying there. Made the track seem very racy here tonight. We saw a lot of 3 and 4 wide action all the way up through. How hairy was it coming from the last row in this feature event?
Yeah, it was awesome. This was probably one of the better Charlotte tracks that I've raced on as far as having 2-3 grooves. Yeah, I got caught in a little incident early. Gary got a little loose, and I actually got into him a little bit, and I apologized to him for that. Just kind of bide your time there. Everybody was 2x2 for a long time, and I don't know, 10, 15 laps in the race. I didn't know if I was going to pass anybody, but finally we got singled out, and we started picking guys off.
Well, you come in tonight as the points leader. You're going to extend that points leader over Brian Hacker. Looking at the last 2 races of the season, next week we head to Lernerville. We all know the challenges that Lernerville can provide without having those outside walls in the corners. What's the last 2 races? You got Lernerville, and then we head back to USA, which you won back in January. What's the outlook for the rest of the season?
Yeah, Lernerville's a weird place. You know, it's a lot of risk versus reward. You have to put that right rear up on the cushion if you want to make time, but it's such a scary line there with no outside wall, and you fall over that berm, and pretty much you fall over that thing, you're going to the back. Doesn't matter. You can't fall off that berm easily. I should put it that way. And then USA is always about the same, one groove on the bottom, and that'll be you drive it a little bit more like an asphalt race. So hopefully we'll have 2 good showings and we can cap this season out.
Well, congratulations on your win here tonight. I see that yellow paint scheme back on the car here tonight. Who makes it all possible for you?
Yeah, I think the girlfriend, as always, I put a lot of time in doing this stuff. Jack's EDM, NC Resources, Milner Media and Design, Bud and Jeff for putting on the league, and Jeff for racing me clean there. It was a lot of fun, and you for broadcasting, and we'll catch you next week.
Sounds like a plan, my man. It is your tonight's feature event winner here on JR Photography Night. It is Tyler Jackson. 1 spot shy here tonight. Led the most laps here tonight. Put on a valiant effort. And we come to the Ultimate Race Car sponsored number 62. Just comes up 1 spot shy here. Jeff, what a great run this car had here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, that was quite the race. I really was not expecting to hang on to the top spot, for half the race, much less all but the last half lap. So, man, that was a great battle. The track slipped off quite a bit throughout the race. I was kind of losing ground there early on, and started to cheat my lineup. Kind of found something that was unconventional that was working for me, and unfortunately, it just didn't quite have enough to get it done.
Talk about those last few laps there. You had Tyler Jackson get by it, and you threw that nice little slide job on him to get back by him, and then you kind of fell back a little bit. Did you think maybe that was going to be the end of that? And then talk us through that last lap there. You got to your inside, and that was a heck of a drag race off turn 4.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned when he got inside of me there and got around me, because I knew I was kind of running a line where it looked like nobody else was able to run it. I said that as well. So, yeah, come that last lap, I kind of figured he was going to throw it in underneath and try to do a slide job. So I checked it up and tried to drive back down underneath him. Unfortunately, he kind of held it lower than I was hoping that he would. I had to really take it easy and not run into the side of him there, and we had a nice clean finish.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish. Next week we head to Lernerville. How's this team gonna shape up when we go to the very fast Lernerville Speedway?
Well, that's going to be a new experience for me. I don't have a lot of laps around that place. The few that I've had, it seems like a really fun track, and gets really dicey when the cushion goes away. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations on second place here tonight. Before we let you go, we'll roll the red carpet out and let you thank those that make it all possible for you.
I got to thank David at Ski Graphics for painting the cars up for me, and JR Photography, Ultimate Race Cars, and Bud for helping with this league. Al, you do a great job broadcasting. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations on second place here tonight. That's your second place finisher, the driver of the 62 Ultimate Race Cars entry. That is Jeff Steenbergen. And now we'll move back here to our third place man, who's making me eat some crow here tonight. He comes in undefeated on JR Photography, but since I said that, Bud, you come up 2 spots shy, but still a great battle there with Brian Hacker to get yourself into a podium position here tonight.
Yeah, I kind of knew going into this deal I probably wasn't going to win. From that, like I said, it's a pretty solid race. This place was super racy. Try to dry the place out a little bit and make it nice and wide and try to give us some options. So I'm pretty happy.
Well, overall, a very good night of racing. We saw a lot of 3 and 4 wide racing. Next week, we head to Lernerville. You've heard me ask your other competitors. Lernerville, one of those tricky tracks. How's it going to shape up for you and your driving style?
Well, I'm a bottom feeder, man. I like the old catfish line. They always say that race on the bottom ain't very fun, but it pays good. So Lernerville is one of those places that's kind of that way. It's like Tyler said, you live and die by the cushion, man. You're either going to be a hero or a zero up there. So I'm hoping that that place slicks off top to bottom, and there ain't nothing to lean on up there because that place, the way the banking is there, you know when the cushion gets up along the top, you got to be up there and you got to be on it. You got to be wide open. So I'm hoping she slicks off and we can make it a little race like we did tonight. But I'm gonna hopefully the bottom rolls in there. We can make up some ground along around the short way around the racetrack.
Well, we look forward to next week, but before we let you leave here and get the car on the trailer and head back home to get it ready for next week's races, who makes it all possible for you?
Oh, I got to thank my wife at JR Photography, Skis Graphics for making the car look good, Ultimate Sim League, Ultimate Race Cars, Turn 3 Racing Media, and you guys do a great job and best in the business as far as I'm concerned. So got to thank all my competitors that race with us every week, show up week in and week out, and just everybody's watching at home, and thanks for supporting us, and we'll see you guys in a week from today.
There you have it. That is your third place finisher here tonight. And that is the number 40 of Bud Riedner as he pulls away here on the turn off the front stretch. That will do it. For that is our JR Photography post-race show. And that was brought to us by JR Photography. As now we turn our attention to going back here 1 week time. Only 2 weeks remain as we take a look at your unofficial results coming after tonight's feature event. It was Tyler Jackson picking up the win by a nail biter over Jeff Steenbergen. Bud Riedner finishes third, Brian Hacker fourth. Justin Smith rounded out your field in the fifth spot. Ryan Gundrum, who was up front early on in this race, he had a great battle all the way to the end. David Konjerski, Brandon Hall, Gary Pizon, and James Fletcher rounding out your 10-car field. Taking a look at your current updated points after tonight's feature event. And it is now 26 points. Brian Hacker chipping away a little bit into that points lead, 28 points in going into next week, as Brian Hacker will now have David Konjerski up to third, Bud Riedner fourth, Jeff Steenbergen fifth. No changes inside the top 5 in points after tonight's main event. James Fletcher up 1 spot. He'll leapfrog over the 302 of Kurt Clevin, which we miss him on the racetrack. Brian Gundrum up to 10th spot here as we work with just 2 more weeks of racing remaining for the Ultimate Sim League. Once again, we want to thank everybody for watching the Ultimate Sim League here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. Their races are being brought to you by Ultimate Race Cars, Ski Graphics, and JR Photography. Well, that will do it from the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I am and always will be your host here on the Turn 3 Racing Network for the Ultimate Sim League for at least the next 2 weeks. I would like to wish you guys a good week. Remember to keep the racing on the racetrack, and we'll see you at the races.